Buckle up as we dive into the world of disability advocacy, where we break barriers, shatter stereotypes, and have a laugh or two along the way. Get ready for real stories, bold discussions, and a whole lot of empowerment. This is a podcast that proves disability is not a limit, but a superpower. So let's crank up the volume, spark the conversation, and make some noise for change.
In this episode, we hear from Michelle Steiner, but first, I kind of wanted to do Bible crossover. This is a good episode. We talk a lot about the arts, and not just musical arts or paint and picture arts, but writing arts as well. But arts, we know that God gave us art for a reason, because there's flowers outside, there's trees that bloom around this time of year, plants that bloom, and stuff like that. So biblically speaking, it says in Song of Solomon 2:11, it says in the New Living Version, "Look, the winter is past, and the rains are over and gone." Then it goes on to say in Song of Solomon 2:12, New Living Version, "The flowers are springing up, the seasons of singing birds has come, and the cooing of turtle doves fill the air." Here we are now with Michelle Steiner. Did you experience any issues with social events or going out in middle school or high school?
Yes, I did receive. It was really hard for me socially. I can remember from the start, the bullying began. I went to a very small conservative school district where everybody knew each other. I couldn't hide the fact that I had to go to learning support to get a test read to me or to get instruction. And I was lumped together with my learning support peers. And the teasing and the picking on all the bullying started very early. When I was young, it was more like, well, we don't want to be your friend, or you can't play with us on the playground.
Yeah.
But it got worse as I went throughout school, especially when I got to high school and all the groups were really defined. And I just didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. And a lot of the people who picked on me, that really seemed to be a lot worse during those years. One of the things that really helped me out was I found a group that was outside of our school district that was a art program. And I had teenagers that in my community that went to the neighboring school district, and I wrote for their newsletter and did some other things with them. And what I found was acceptance. I could shed that reputation of being the outcast that followed me all those years. And when that group stopped meeting, I found another group. I found an adult writing group, people just a few years older than I am, and they got to see me grow as a person and as a writer. 20-some years later, we still meet once a month to read each other's writing, and we're in each other's lives a lot more than that. We've been involved with weddings and birthdays and just hanging out and being together. And I just think branching out beyond my school community is what helped me to get find my people.
Yeah, and I just want to mention too, you mentioned writing too. First thing about that is when you have a disability, if you have a disability, and if you're listening and you're like, I don't know if I can be a writer, you would be surprised. I want to challenge the average listener. You'd be surprised how much you can write about just in your life experiences. And I guess that goes for anybody. Because life isn't easy. So, you can write about all kinds of things.
Right. Writing is what gives me my voice. And that's one of the first things that we found I was good at was writing. My dad saw a story I wrote about a dinosaur, and he said, wow, this is really good. And that encouraged me to write more. And what that did, it also provided me a world where I could escape to, especially whenever I was getting picked on. I could go and read, or I could write about how I was feeling. And I can remember when I found my writing group all those years ago, I had a friend that said, you should write about having a learning disability. And I said, oh, no, that's too personal. And I think that I wrote some bad poetry and some other things. But when I finally got that courage to write that first article, and it was published on the Mighty, that was a really healing thing for me to do. And I think that anybody can go and they can write about that. I mean, that is definitely something, whether somebody wants to read it aloud or get it published. I mean, we can always edit that. My stories are never perfect. Whenever I get the first draft in, my husband is my favorite editor, but I will bring it to my writing group. And sometimes, even when you send things out to get published, editors have things that maybe they want you to change to make the story better. And I think it's just any kind of form of expression, whether it's writing or music or art, those are really ways that people can have their voice and can be able to express how they're feeling.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that too, is art. Okay, you can express yourself through music, through pictures, and that's why the arts are so powerful, is because you never know what door may lead, may open. You may not make a lot of money in the bank, but hey, you're getting that exposure to maybe someday down the road make a truly a big impact. And you can make an impact with the small stuff too, but you can also make a future out of it as well.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah. Those who do not know that are listening, people with a learning and physical disability find it hard to date sometimes. Please explain why and give tips to help others who may be struggling.
Right. I always knew that I wanted to find somebody and to be able to fall in love. And there were people who didn't want to be with me because I had a disability. I can remember my ex was breaking up with me, and he goes, I think you can drive with your disability. You just don't want to, and I'm tired of taking you places. And there was other guys who just said, hey, I don't want to be with you because of this disability. And and I was heartbroken, and I would always wonder, is there really anyone out there for me? And I'm here to say there are people out there. I've been married we'll be married in 9 years to my wonderful husband, Ron. And I met him totally unexpectedly. And one of the things that I would probably tell people is to be very open and upfront about your disability. I can remember I told my husband on our very first date. Of course, he picked me up, and we were just talking, and I said, well, I have a learning disability, and I can't drive. And he said, well, how does that make you feel? And he was the only person that ever asked me that. And I knew he was a keeper at that point. So I think being open and being honest, and if somebody doesn't want to be with you because you have one, then that's simply not the right person for you. And I wouldn't waste my time having that kind of relationship with them. I would just try to go, and find somebody. How I met my husband was totally unexpectedly. We didn't meet online or through any dating source or anything like that. I was volunteering at the Arts Center in our community that evening, and and that's where he was going. And he saw me walking down the street, and he thought, oh, who's that girl? And turns out we were going to the same place, and he was going to play guitar that night. And he's like, oh, and we found out we knew mutual friends that were there. and we were at other places together prior to that, but we just didn't know it. And it just happened really naturally. And I
Yeah.
think that's the key thing too. Find someone that you can love and something that you love doing, and be friends first. That was the thing too. We had a friendship before anything else.
Yeah, and that is one thing, um, even though even though I'm still finding
Mhm.
trying to find that someone, even if you, for example, if you like them but they do not like you, for instance, you know,
Mhm.
try not to force that connection, because if you're
Mhm.
forcing it, even though you may like the person, it's truly not worth it because you're not making a meaningful connection.
Right. You can't force those feelings for another person, and it's probably not going to work out or how you would like it to work out.
Yeah, yeah, that's at the end of the day, that's kind of how it goes, and I know it's hard, but
Yes, it is.
yeah. So what things would you like to share that you wish society would understand?
I wish society would understand that people with disabilities are far more alike than different. I think sometimes when we hear disability, people think that it's a bad thing, oh, that poor person that has a disability. And it's not the worst thing in the world if you have one. It can make life complicated, but it definitely isn't the end of the world. And there's things that everybody can and can't do. Uh, I can't do math very well, or I can't drive, but other people might not be able to read or write as well that I can, or other people may not be notice a lot of details that I get the chance to do when I'm on my walks and take pictures of flowers. And some people are just better at certain things, and some people struggle with that. Just people with disabilities might have a little extra issues on why they can't do something.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what I like to say is you may not be able to do, for instance, um, ride a bike, but you may be
Mhm.
able to ride a scooter, or you may be able to ride a three-wheel bicycle instead of a two-wheel bicycle. And so, yes, you may do it differently, but society needs to stop doing what I like to call a apples to apples comparison.
Mhm.
And what that is okay, I'm just like Michelle Steiner, or you're just like
Mhm.
Dakota Caldwell. We're two different people with two different lives, and we like and dislike different things, and that is all right.
Agreed. Because everybody, even if somebody has a learning disability, they're even if it's somebody has dyscalculia, they're going to experience it differently. And we have to respect that and to really listen to what that person's perspective is, and also what their needs are too, because everybody is so different.
Yes, yes, and you just mentioned earlier that you do some photographing in that
Yes.
last question. And so that is my next question for you. Let's talk about your perception of your photographing.
Well, one of the things, because I don't drive, I get to see details that other people might miss. I'll be in the car with my husband, and I'll say, "Did you see that?" And he'll be like, "No, focus on the road." Now he is getting a lot better at this because he listens to these shows and he hears me talk about that. But I get that chance to see flowers and other really neat things. And sometimes when I don't have a ride, or if I just want to go out for a walk, I am able to go and take pictures of flowers and other things that I see. And I have people that'll tell me, "You bring out details in a flower that I would miss."
Yeah.
And I get that. Yeah, and I love doing it, and I get to share that work on my blog, and people can purchase uh, pictures and other items of my photography.
Yeah, and I will definitely mention this at the end too. But I am definitely gonna put Michelle's website in the show notes, so make sure you check out all her stuff, as well as you can, like she said, you can purchase. I think you can purchase canvas prints if I'm not mistaken, right?
Hmm. I can make anything, pretty much what people would like too. I can customize things as well.
and you can they can contact you through your website.
Yes, they can at michellesmission.net.
All right, and then so we will get to that a little bit more later too as well. But first, let's talk about the book Rediscovering Your Story, a project that involved many people.
Yes. Last summer, I was involved. We went to a workshop where people that had different needs, some people were people that were in recovery from alcohol and drugs, other people had uh, a mental health journey that they went on. And I was the only one that had a learning disability, but we got together and we met at a workshop and we wrote different kinds of prompts. And those prompts were published in an anthology last summer called Rediscovering Your Story. And I have three stories in there. I have one about my favorite place, which is Phipps Conservancy in Pittsburgh. And then I talked about the journey of loving my hair. And I also wrote about the greatest lesson that I had to learn in life. And that was some of the lessons that having a learning disability has taught me.
Yeah, and I like those chicken noodle soup books, but I also like um, to hear it definitely from when I interview a person and they say, "Yeah, I have a couple stories in
Mhm.
here." Then I know
Mhm.
then I know the person, the story behind the person, and I know that they are real stories.
Mhm.
Not that the chicken
Yeah.
noodle soup ones aren't. Um, but sometimes I don't know if you've ever read a book and you're like, I feel like
Mhm.
this is made up, you know. Um, but so that's what I like about this book, and I haven't had time to
Mhm.
read it yet, but I surely do hope to sometime.
Awesome. Yes, that was. I can attest. Those are real people that wrote those stories and went to the workshops.
Yes, which is awesome. I'm glad. So,
Yes.
um, is there is there anything else you would like to say or bring up that I haven't touched on?
One thing that I do want to bring up is I had a lot of people who said that I couldn't go to college, including a psychiatrist who evaluated me and said that my scores were too low and I wouldn't go past community college. And I was able to do it with a lot of support and a lot of programs. I was able to graduate and get my bachelor's degree. And I just want to encourage people out there to know what their dreams are and not to be afraid to go out and go for it and to find a way to do it. And lastly, success doesn't always come in the package that you expect. Sometimes it comes in something even better.
Yeah, that could be hard to accept sometimes, but it can also be,
Hmm.
once you do accept it, sometimes it can be the best rewarding thing you
Yep,
can ever, feel. So, um,
exactly.
and then social media connection.
Yes, you can find me on my website, michellesmission.net. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram as well.
All right, and then that sounds good. So if you haven't already, make sure that you follow Michelle's Mission, and then you also look at the Rediscovering Your Storybook, or you purchase one of her pictures. Part of the reason why I wanted to have her on this month is because it is April, and so things start to spring up like flowers and stuff like that. And I know that she does take pictures of flowers and nature and stuff like that. So if you need something to spruce up your home, now would be a good time to get it. Just bring something fresh in your home from a. And then I just want to say thank you for letting me interview you. I know it's been a long time coming, but I'm glad we finally found the time to do it, and it turned out perfectly. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Alright, guys, that was Michelle Steiner. Make sure you go out and check her stuff. I will see you next month. And until then, go and advocate.